On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, the Purdue Boilermakers are once again the number one team in the country, and great news for Purdue fans, you do not play Rutgers for another 2 months, so you're probably going to be number one for a little while, right, TJ? That's how it works. You guys always are the team to knock them off when they're ranked number one, so you got at least a 2-month reign ahead of you. Purdue wins the Maui Invitational. Boy, it's been a while since we've done a show. Apologies, by the way. I'll say that out of the gate. This show is coming late because we were supposed to record on Monday, and the Barstool, the Cyber Monday telethon, and just like all the stuff we had on the schedule, we just literally did not have any time or any studio time to get the show done. So as a result, we're recording this on Tuesday, and with that, it feels like Feast Week was like 4 months ago. But we're gonna do our best to get through all of it. The Maui Invitational was the most anticipated Maui Invitational I can ever remember, and I would say it lived up to the hype. It was a ton of great games, other than like Purdue, Tennessee, which was a slugfest, which is like what Tennessee kind of does. That was a disgusting basketball game, a parade to the free throw line. But the title game was awesome. Purdue Marquette. Marquette had 3 fun games. I mean, Marquette's a hell of a basketball team, but they're also a very fun basketball team, which we'll talk about a little bit. But that is that sometimes being fun is almost better than being good. Not really, but like as it pertains to watching college basketball, when you're watching a lot of shitty basketball, if I'm a neutral fan, a lot of times I appreciate watching the fun teams more than the good teams. And Marquette is both. So that was cool. Kansas bounced back nicely against Tennessee. Marquette kind of had their way with Kansas. And UCLA and Gonzaga, I thought both had some nice showings too. We'll talk about all those teams and some of the things that I took away from the Maui Invitational, which again I now realize feels like a long time ago, but yeah, I got to talk about it. It was a great Maui Invitational. Other non-Maui things going on. Premature panic button with FAU maybe, with Villanova maybe. Both of those teams looked really good during Feast Week, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And I am very excited to announce that for the first time in the 2023-24 season, we will be doing the fraud power rankings on this show. It's time. I've seen enough basketball. I have enough takes. I'm ready to fire off some fraud power rankings. So we're going to get that back into the mix on this show. A ton to talk about. We'll do our best to touch everything. It's been a long time since we've done a show, so we'll try to recap as much as I can. But yeah, that's on the docket today. Let's jump into it. All right, Maui recap. First of all, no guest today. Apologies. By the way, I don't mean to just keep doing like housekeeping type announcements, but yeah, the scheduling this week with the Cyber Monday and just kind of the coming off the holiday, all that sort of thing. Like I was going to reach out to people to come on the show, and then I realized I don't even know what time to tell them to do the show. I don't even know what day we're going to be doing the show. So it got a little chaotic. So yeah, I'm still. I just want to let everyone know, anytime we do a solo show, that is not the vision for the show. We want to get guests involved. We were going to get people on here. But today, and I'm also doing the fraud power rankings, which is, I don't know. I don't really feel like I should have a guest on for that. Maybe I should bring Jake Marsh on for that and just like.
I don't know if Jake Marsh has it in him to denote
just call people frauds. But I wanted to do the fraud power rankings, and then I realized like that would be kind of a misuse of John Rothstein say. If I had Rothstein come on, I was like, John, sit there as I read through my fraud power rankings for you. And he's like, all right, I'm going to go text some coaches, Titus. You just let me know when you're done. That's I just wanted to say that, and don't panic about the scheduling change. This is a one-off thing because of the cyber. So we will get back to regularly scheduling program, and I apologize for not being more clear. We should have seen this coming, and yada yada yada. But let's get into it. Maui recap. I guess I'll just start with the best teams and go from there, like the best showings. Start with the first two. The first two teams should be the teams that were playing for the championship. Purdue, the new number one team in the country. 3 straight years that Purdue has achieved a number one ranking in the AP poll, which is the first time a Big Ten school has ever done that. I found that really surprising, to be honest. I guess it's something that is difficult to pull off, obviously. No other Big Ten school has ever done it. But like given like the runs that I mean, Bob Knight had 2 teams in a row that went undefeated. I would have assumed that like one team before those 2 undefeated teams, the 75 team went undefeated and then lost to Kentucky in the title, or in the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament. And then 76 went undefeated. So those 2 were obviously number one. I guess I would have just assumed that the team before that or the team after that touched the number one ranking at one point in a week. But no, not the case. Purdue is the first ever Big Ten team, and it is a absolutely perfect Purdue stat, it is an absolutely perfect Big Ten stat because ultimately it doesn't really mean a whole lot, but at the same time, it is something that's like you should be proud of. But it doesn't. You're not going to hang a banner for that. But also, it's such a perfect Big Ten and Purdue stat because it's impressive, but it ultimately means nothing. And that's why it's a perfect Big Ten stat. I mean, like Maryland is a program that has won of all the Big Ten programs. Maryland has won a national championship more recently than any other, and Maryland has never been ranked number 1 ever in the history of the program. And yet they are the Big Ten school with the most recent national championship in 2002. So it is that's why it's a perfect Big Ten set. There have been 7 programs, by the way, that have been ranked number 1 since the Big Ten last won a national title. You know what, TJ? You know what I'm going to do for you?
Yep.
Trivia time. I'm Jeff D. Lowe. I'm putting on my Jeff D. Lowe cap. There have been 7 programs. The first one is pretty easy. It's the current number 1 team in the country.
Purdue.
Can you name the 7 Big Ten programs that have been ranked number 1 since 2000, since the last national champion of the conference? Purdue is 1.
Ohio State.
Ohio State is 1.
Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Michigan.
Michigan in 2013.
Indiana.
Indiana in 2013.
Then
there's 2 more.
Are these
not particularly recent, but they are 2 programs.
I'm saying, are these teams that are currently in the Big Ten? Or
they're currently in the Big
Ten.
Ten.
Are you going to do a UCLA team?
No, I will do or like how Jeff D. Lowe will ask the questions where he'll be like, this team was in the Big Ten at the time.
So like Maryland?
No. Well, Maryland's never been number 1 ever in the history of the program. Ever.
So therefore,
no, they have not been since
Iowa?
2000. Not Iowa.
Nebraska?
Not Nebraska.
I'm just going to name them all now.
No. It is Wisconsin in 2007. Not even when you say Wisconsin, I think most people would assume the 2015 team that almost won the national championship. Not the case. They were never number 1. It's 2007, the 2007 Wisconsin team, which Ohio State was number 1 too. Like I remember that year, us and Wisconsin just kept flipping back and forth of who was number 1.
That was a pretty easy trivia question. I probably should have got that.
And then the last one you didn't mention was Illinois in 05, which you were probably not even born yet.
Is that Darren Williams?
Yeah, the Darren Williams team. So, but I found that fascinating that the Big Ten has had 7 programs ranked number 1. I think all 7 of those programs, by the way, not necessarily all of the 6 of those programs have, played in the national championship. Michigan State certainly has. Indiana, Michigan. Yeah, all 6 of those except for Purdue have all played for national championships since that time, and they've all lost. So, I don't know. It's just like that. When I saw that Purdue was ranked number 1, the first time in Big Ten history a team has been number 1 3 straight years, I was like, that is as Big Ten as it gets, because you shouldn't not be proud of that, but also like every other conference is like, whatever. We don't. We're winning national championships. We don't care about that shit. We don't care about being number 1 in November. But it is a big deal for Purdue. So this Purdue team, I said at the beginning of the year, and you could check the tape, I said Purdue should be preseason number 1. I felt strongly about that. I understood why people thought Kansas should be preseason number 1, but it just didn't make sense to me that like Purdue was going to start this season having any question marks whatsoever. It was very obvious that they were going to be very, very good out of the gate. Now the questions with Purdue moving forward is like, is this going to be a repeat of last year? Not just losing to the 16th seed, but as a reminder, like it was kind of obvious that Purdue was going to trip up in the NCAA tournament last year. Like whether it was a 16th seed or not, you had the 2 freshman guards that aren't NBA caliber guys. They became very reliant on Zach Edey. I think teams started figuring out Edey defensively a little bit. He is good defensively, but you get him in the drop coverage, and you can just. I mean, Jalen Hood-Schifino, I bring it up all the time on the show, but I was at the game and I just remember like being burned into my mind how much he was dicing up Purdue's defense with the like mid-range game. So like as the season wore on and people started figuring out Purdue a little bit more and realizing you could pressure the guards and you just kind of sort of figured out who they were and what their weaknesses were. It became apparent that like this wasn't a team that was going to win a national championship, but there was a very good team. And if I remember right, they were unranked entering the season last year. So all told, it was like a fun ride and a fun season, even though it ended losing to a 16 seed. So the question this year is like, is this going to be a repeat? Because it does feel very similar in the sense that like Purdue last year went to the PK 85, I think it was. I don't know how old Phil Knight is anymore, but as a reminder, that is not even on Phil Knight's birthday. His birthday is in February, and he always threw the birthday party for himself in November. Very confusing. But yeah, I think it was the PK 85. Purdue like rolled through that last year. They rolled through a Maui Invitational field that was loaded this year. What's the difference? You're asking yourself. I think one, you start with Lance Jones being way better than David Jenkins was last year for Purdue. I mean, they brought in Jenkins last year to be kind of the safety net for the guard play. You're leaning on Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, two young guards that again I think are really, really good, and I think they've been good this year. And I mean, Lawyer against Tennessee was awesome, but Braden Smith was awesome too in Maui. I think both those guys are fucking awesome, and I've always thought they were going to be good. It was just like last year, they're freshmen and they're not. I mean, it's a very short list of freshmen guard, a backcourt full of freshmen that are probably not going to log one single NBA minute. The teams that have had that have not had a ton of success in college basketball. So what do? You go out, you get David Jenkins, you plug him in, you hope that like this safety, if there's ever an issue that arises, you can lean on him, his experience. He wasn't really that guy for them. Lance Jones is that guy. Lance Jones has been great for them. He's been very, very good out of the gate, and it's kind of like a what's the opposite of a double-edged sword? A double good thing?
Extremely round sword.
An extremely round sword. It's been like, because on the one hand, you don't. I think this year, having the year experience under the guy's belt, they don't need. The Lawyer and Braden Smith aren't going to need the safety net. They don't need the training wheels quite as much this year. But also the training wheels that you do have with Lance Jones are way better than the training wheels he had last year. So I think that's a big step up. I think, and I really hate to pile on the kid because every time I talk about Purdue, I do bring up Ethan Wharton. Ethan Wharton plays hard. He's a great, like, I think Purdue fans love him and they should. And I think he's a guy that should be beloved by the time his career is over, and he's 10 years older and he comes back to campus. He should be loved. But like, if I'm just being honest and I'm being objective, like, Purdue cannot play Ethan Wharton like 30 minutes a night, 20 minutes, 25 minutes a night, and have serious aspirations of winning a national title. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And last year he started almost every game for them. I think by the end of the year, by the time the tournament rolled around, they were bringing him off the bench. But he was a very important piece for them last year, and he was kind of a trillion king. I mean, the guy is very good at playing like 12 minutes and doing nothing, and he's decent defensively. He plays hard. I don't want to pile on too much. I'm just like being objective. Like, you cannot play Ethan Wharton a ton of minutes and be a serious national title contender. And I think they're using him well this year, which is to say they're just not playing him as much. Like, they're using him well, and here's what I mean by using him well. They're putting his ass on the bench. No, he's playing like 10 minutes a game so far. He played 25 total minutes in Maui. 3 fouls, 1 turnover, 1 assist, 1 block. That was his total stat line. 0 for 1 from the field. That was what he did in 25 total minutes in Maui. And I think that shows me that like Painter realizes you can't just like play the coach's pet type guys. Like, you need like actual talent on the floor. You need like the days of putting play hard on the ass of your practice shorts and hoping that culture is going to push your program to a Final Four. That's not necessarily going to work. And so that again, I feel bad say, like, I don't want to be the guy that's like shitting all over like Ethan Wharton's playing his hardest. As far as I know, he's a decent guy. But that stood out to me last year. I was like, man, I don't love the young guards being like so inexperienced, and they would get rattled obviously under pressure. And I just felt like there was like a talent deficiency. Now, that's the issue with Purdue, I guess, moving forward, is that they still, I don't know how many NBA players are on this roster. I don't know how much top-end talent there is, but they are very, very good, obviously. It feels very similar to last year, which everyone is going to point to the 16-seed loss in the first round and say, oh, so we don't have to worry about them. But I would just call to everyone's attention that Purdue was a fucking juggernaut for most of the season last year. And I think this is basically the same team, just better. Like, they have addressed some of the concerns. But at the same time, the formula to beat this Purdue team remains the same. You incite chaos when you're guarding them. That doesn't necessarily mean do a full court press and crawl up into ball handlers like that. It just means, I mean, that's what like Marquette did to keep the game close. And, it kind of felt like Marquette might steal it there in the end. But by the end of the game, Marquette's just like throwing dudes all over the place. And it's just like chaos when Marquette was on defense. And you could see the PTSD going through Purdue's brain as they're dealing with all that. But, to be fair, I do think that that's kind of a formula for most college basketball teams, if we're being completely honest. I don't think there are a lot of college basketball teams in the country that if you're doing like a run and jump against them for 40 minutes, they're like, oh, yeah, we got this. We're comfortable. There are some that like in that so you're asking yourself, why would more teams not do that? The reason is because there are some that in one specific game can relax and can make the right plays and can make you look really fucking stupid if you're a team that's trying to throw double teams at guards left and right and press and all that kind of shit like that. That might not be they might catch you on one night where it doesn't work. But I think when you're looking at Purdue and you're a team that's not as good as they are, and that's going to happen in the NCAA tournament, and you're saying, how can we pull off an upset? The formula remains the same, which is what Fairleigh Dickinson did, which is just fucking spider monkey him, dude.
Be too small.
Just be too small, dude. Just throw. And I think that's obviously going to be the formula this year. The other thing is when you are going up against Purdue's defense, it is kind of put Zach Edey in ball screens and exploit him in that way. Which like Zach Edey, I think he's a great player. Obviously, he's National Player of the Year. I'm very firmly on the side of he's not good just because he's tall. He is actually a very, very good basketball player. But you can attack him on defense, and I think teams kind of know that. But the flip side to all this is that Purdue knows this, and I think Purdue, as the season was wearing on last year, was kind of figuring out who they were along the way. And I think if you weren't really paying super close attention to Purdue, you thought that Purdue was just Zach Edey, and they just dumped the ball into him, and they have a 7'4" guy and no one else does, and that was their entire team. That was not the case. And I think like if you got Matt Painter an lie detector test and put some true serum in him, whatever, he would tell you that like he wasn't really sure what the team was going to be at the start of the season. And they had a great thing in PK 85. And like as the season wore on, they're still trying to like figure out who they are. And like Matt Painter like has his coaching tendencies where he hates running ball screens, but like now all of a sudden maybe you have to lean on ball screens. Braden Smith, I think, is a good ball screen player. I think Braden Smith and his ball screen offense, like I love Braden Smith. I love watching him play basketball. But like Matt Painter wants to run motion offense and wants to do shit away from the ball, which you can't really get fully away from. But and I think as the season wore on last year, there was a lot of those tug of wars of just like, who are we as a team? I know we have Edey, but who are we around Edey? And is it Mason Gillis? Is it Caleb First? Is it Kaufman Wren off the bit? Like how do these pieces fit around Edey? They never really fully quite figured that out, but Zach Edey was so good that it didn't matter for most of the season. And I think this year they have a better grasp on who they are and what they want to be. And obviously losing to a 16 seed, you kind of figure out, like, you kind of take a long look in the mirror in the offseason and are like, all right, what do we have to fix? And, the fun part about this as a neutral fan is that I do think Purdue has addressed those concerns, but I don't think they fully addressed it. I don't think like the concerns are going away. I don't think they don't have NBA talent. They don't have guys that are going to be lottery picks. Which it is, college basketball is different than the NBA, but at the end of the day, you do need a certain amount of talent to win basketball games. They don't have that. I do think you could still pressure him. I do think that they are by the end of the year, and they kind of already are, but They are going to rely heavily on Zach Edey, so like that becomes an interesting thing. Is like Zach Edey gets in foul trouble, what does this team look like? So yeah, Purdue's kind of a perfect number one to me because they they do feel like like the Death Star of a basketball program right now. They feel like you have a guy in Zach Edey that's kind of unguardable, and he's the reigning National Player of the Year, and it's like, holy shit, this team is going to just steamroll the Big Ten because the Big Ten doesn't look particularly great. But also, they're very beatable, and there are you don't have to play a perfect game to beat Purdue if you're a good basketball team. So anyway, I'm high on Purdue, but I was high on Purdue entering the season, and them winning the Maui Invitational is not. I think I've said on the show, multiple shows, that they were going to win the Maui Invitational. Should I gamble? Am I a genius, TJ? Did I?
Yeah. You might have cracked the code.
Did I crack the code that the team that
is the best the best?
The team that was number 1 all of last year and brought back the National Player of the Year is probably going to be the best team, and not the teams that have a lot of question marks and need time to figure out who they are? Huh. Wow. I'm a genius.
It would be something if they lost.
Oh yeah.
As the number 1 ranked team 3 years in a row to the same team. It's a long way away. It would be something though.
Boy,
you would have to admit that it was something.
Yeah, you would have to acknowledge this is something. I know there might be something different about this Purdue team insofar as I'm watching the Maui Invitational with my father, who was visiting for Thanksgiving, and I asked him about Purdue. You know, obviously Coach Titus, the resident Purdue hater here on the Mark Titus show, and I asked him, Dad, what do you think about Purdue winning the Maui Invitational? I mean, it was a pretty loaded field, and they're going to be the number 1 team again, 3rd year in a row. And he kind of had nothing, TJ. I don't want to. I don't know if he was saving it for the show. He just was like, "We'll be fine." That's just what he kept saying, and I was like, "I don't know. I don't like the look on your face, Dad." So I promised him, Purdue loses the first game, he can come on the show and gloat. But it might be 2 months away. It might be Rutgers. That might be when it happens. No, Purdue has a tough.
We were talking about Rutgers there. I wasn't even thinking about
us. Let me see. Purdue, I know they have Arizona coming up.
Ooh.
They have Alabama December 9th. That is, where is that game? Why should I? That's right. That's like in, that's in Toronto? That's not right. I didn't know that.
Coca-Cola Coliseum.
They're doing that in Toronto for Edie? That's pretty cool, I guess. They have Alabama December 9th in Toronto. They have Arizona in I think that's in Indianapolis. That's the same day Kansas plays. That's a loaded weekend, dude. That's the same day Kansas plays at Bloomington at IU in Assembly Hall, and then in Indy, that same day Arizona's playing Purdue. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so they could drop one of those for sure. Arizona could beat them. Arizona is a tough matchup for Purdue, but Purdue's a tough matchup for Arizona. That'd be a hell of a game. Anyway, that's my Purdue thoughts. Purdue is the take-home point. They are basically the same team except better. And you know, like I said, if you're someone who only focuses on March, you're laughing to yourself and you're like, I have nothing to worry about. If you're a fan of all these other teams, you know, and if you're someone who values the regular season, you're like, well, fuck me. It looks like Purdue's gonna be pretty fucking good this year. Marquette, meanwhile, lost to Purdue in the championship game, knocked off Kansas. My big thing on Marquette is that they are going to go as far as their defense takes them. Their offense is incredible. I mean, they have it is such a joy to watch them play offense. Kolek is a freaking wizard with the ball. It just has an unreal feel for the game and pace and switching paces, and you know, like he gets to the basket and he's not super athletic, and I'm not just saying that because he's white. I'm saying it because he's not super athletic. He's so good at, like, despite that, like, just changing his pace and leaning into guys and, you know, leaning into a guy to create space and then stepping off of him to you know, get the little. He's so good at, like, the like running to the bucket and bumping into a guy and, like, throwing it up from his hip, like the sloppy finishes, so to speak. He's so good at those. But like for being a guy who's not like super big and athletic, like he's pretty good at finishing at the rim, or at least that's what my eyes tell me. Maybe there's a stat out there that says otherwise. Having him run the point is so fun to watch. Having Cam Jones just be a bucket at all times is so fun to watch. Iguodaro is the best passing center in the country. He's like a point center, if such a thing exists. He's incredible. Joplin's a knockdown guy. Stevie Mitchell hasn't been shooting super well to start the season. I think like he gets rolling. Like my point is their offense, even when their offense is bad, their offense is still going to be pretty good. I mean they have weapons. They have their style of play and their cohesiveness of like all these guys were on the team last year and they're back now. And I mean I can't say enough good things about Marquette's offense, which brings me to the point that I just made, which is that their defense is going to be the key for them. And I came away from Maui very impressed with how good their defense looks. Against UCLA, it was kind of nut up or shut up time there down the stretch where Marquette, I don't think their offense necessarily failed them. It's been a while. I'm trying to remember how it went, but if I remember right, like it wasn't necessarily like they weren't lighting it up down the stretch. Like basically their defense won the game for them. They had to get UCLA had a shot to tie it or win it at the end, I think, and Marquette just like locked them up. And against Purdue, I thought that was how Marquette stayed in the game. I thought their defense, they were swarming Purdue, and they were as I said earlier, like inciting chaos, and that was encouraging because I think this team they don't need to be a defensive juggernaut. They just have to consistently care. They just have to consistently bring some sort of effort, and if they can take a little bit of pride in defense, the offense is going to take care of itself, and they're going to be really, really good. So I came away super impressed with Marquette. I mean, the way they handled Kansas, who was number 1 at the time, and they were, I mean, they kind of beat their ass. It wasn't a blowout, but it was a game in my mind that Marquette had from start to finish, kind of, and looked like the better team. Like it looked like a game where if they played again tomorrow, Marquette's going to win just as easily as they won that game. And to do that against the number 1 team in the country is big time. So I will say, though, the one concern I have with Marquette's defense, they did slap the floor against Purdue, and then Purdue immediately scored on them and kind of won the game. So I don't understand why teams keep doing that, why they keep slapping the floor. It never works. Kansas, meanwhile. Kansas loses to Marquette, bounces back, beats Tennessee. I don't know. Like, I don't feel like I've really learned anything about this Kansas team, and I think, like, this Kansas team is going to remain consistent throughout the year, which is they are going to have serious I have serious concerns about their depth, serious questions about the depth in the sense that Timberlake, the kid from Towson that they got who averaged like 18 a game at Towson and is now at Kansas and is supposed to be a knockdown shooter for him and a guy who can score off the bench. I don't know if he's good enough to I don't know if he's quite as good as what they were hoping he would be. He doesn't seem to be a guy that they're going to lean on heavily. Parker Brown, Christian's brother, he's an energy guy. You know, like I think he's good in his role, but like they're bringing him off the bench, and the Jankovic kid like they just have like a Jamari McDowell. Like they have all these guys that they're bringing off the bench that I don't really feel like are bringing a ton of juice. They're basically, in my mind, they're just like 6 deep, and I think like as the season wears on and you get into these games that like matter big time, it's a 6-man rotation with Dickinson, McCullough, DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, and then the 2 freshmen, Furphy, the Australian kid, and Marco Jackson. So the downside for Kansas to me is I don't really feel like they have a ton of depth. I don't really feel like they have a ton of roster flexibility. They don't really have a ton of plan B, which matters greatly in my mind in college basketball, because that's kind of how the NCAA tournament works. Is you have your identity, you have your plan A. Your plan A is not working. Like, can you pivot on the fly? Can you figure out how to still win basketball games? I'm worried that Kansas doesn't have that. I mean, like they're kind of stuck with who they are. The good part about Kansas, though, is it is a hell of a roster. I mean, the talent on this right, like Hunter Dickinson, very, very good. Kevin McCullough is been just like a triple-double machine. DeJuan Harris is one of the best point guards in the country. KJ Adams, like on down the line, like all these dudes are so good. I can't get over their offense looks clunky. The roster doesn't seem to fully fit right. So it's just going to be an interesting team to me. I'm not surprised that they lost to Marquette. I'm not going to ever be surprised if they lose to good teams, but I also will be surprised if they string losses together and if they aren't like a good basketball team. Like I expect them to be a top 10 team all year. I don't really feel like the bottom's going to fall out of Kansas. I don't think Kansas fans need to worry about that. But it's just a weird team. That's the only way I can describe it. I felt that coming into the season, and I feel that coming out of Maui. But they do have a ton of talent, and I guess there is a world where one of those dudes off the bench like really puts it together, because that sort of seems to be a Bill Self special as well. It's like he kind of like in January. I don't even know if this is accurate. This is just my perception of Kansas basketball. It's like it feels like Bill Self will just like all of a sudden start playing a freshman and he's really good and he just kind of comes out of nowhere. So maybe there's hope, but like I don't know. I see him as a 6-man roster, 6.5 guys that they'll throw in there. But like there's 6 guys that I think can play, and the good news is all 6 of them can play. But then also I don't really know what the plan B is. So I felt like I didn't really learn anything about Kansas coming out of Maui. Tennessee, sort of the same thing. I think the Tennessee takeaway is just trust the process. You lose to Purdue, you lose to Kansas, you go 1-2 in Maui. For a team that thought they could probably win the Maui Invitational, that's probably not great. You're probably not super happy about that, going to 1-2. But you lost to two teams that might be the two best teams in the country. It's kind of – I don't think you really change who you are. I mean, like, Tennessee's plan moving forward is going to be muck it up and then trust Dalton Connect and Jordan Gainey to not carry you fully on offense, because Vescovi had a big game against Kansas, but it just seems like that's going to be the formula for them. Connect was 3 for 11 against Kansas, didn't have a great game, and maybe that was the difference. I think Ziegler's still trying to figure out. That's the one thing, I guess, like, I don't know if it's a concern. It's just it's just something to keep an eye on is Zakai Ziegler's role on this team. He is kind of the heart and soul of Tennessee basketball to me, but at the same time, he's coming off the bench now. He's in a new role. He's coming off of an injury. So I don't know how healthy he fully is. Like, it's just trying to figure out his place on this team is going to be interesting moving forward. But yeah, I'm not panicking about Tennessee. I mean, you lost to two great teams. It did get a little ugly against Purdue, got ugly at times against Kansas, but that's who Tennessee is. I think as much as I love Dalton Connect and I love his offensive game, and it can be beautiful to watch him play basketball, Tennessee's identity is still gross. It's still gross basketball. Make games ugly. And then, when the time comes and you need buckets because, the offense isn't flowing right, that's where Connect can be the release valve. So I don't really feel like Tennessee needs to panic. I don't really feel like I learned a ton about them either. They feel like I'm just as confident in Tennessee moving forward as I was entering Maui. Last couple teams I want to talk about, Gonzaga. My takeaways with Gonzaga, they're kind of like a step below Kansas to me. Like, I felt like the same sort of thing where it's like, I don't know about the depth, but the guys you are throwing out there, I do kind of like. I just don't like them as much as I like Kansas's guys, if that makes any sense. Gonzaga's recruiting, if we're being honest with ourselves, has fallen off a little bit, and I think the transfer portal has been what Mark Few has turned to put his roster together with. You get EK from Wyoming, you get Nimhard from Creighton, obviously. And I like both of those guys, but that's when I was watching Gonzaga, I was like, this just feels like a B+ Gonzaga team. And depending on your perspective, that's an insult or it's a compliment. I don't really know. I think a B+ Gonzaga team is still a pretty good basketball team. I think there's, like, Anton Watson is a baller. He's got a ton of talent. I like him. Like, EK was awesome at Wyoming. I think, like, he's still, like, figuring out what his role fully on this team is. But Nimhard is one of the best point guards in the country. Nolan Hickman, though, is a guy that, like, was super inconsistent last year, and I know he was, like, a highly thought of recruit. Did not have a great NCAA tournament. And I see a world, and, like, he's shown it in flashes, so you can kind of see the vision of what it would look like if Gonzaga's players all played to the fullest potential. Ben Gregg was another guy that, if I remember right, was like a highly touted recruit, and we're still kind of waiting to see him be fully realized, like his potential be fully realized. So yeah, Gonzaga's just like they feel like a diet version of Kansas, which I don't mean to be an insult, but it's just like it's a roster that I think is talented, but not super deep, and I'm not fully sure how it all fits together yet, but there's promise there. And I think Gonzaga's, like, they're obviously the West Coast Conference. St. Mary's, who we'll talk about in a little bit, by the way, St. Mary's sucks. And BYU's out of the West Coast Conference now. And so, like, Gonzaga's going to win a ton of games, and they're going to do what they do. And I think when the NCAA tournament rolls around, they'll be a top 4 seed, and maybe they'll make the Sweet 16 and lose or whatever. And the morons will point at Mark Few and say, damn, another year where he didn't win a national title. But really, it's like, that's a hell of a year they just had. That kind of feels like the destiny for this Gonzaga team to me. But yeah, that was what I wrote down for them. And then UCLA, young but a ton of talent. I mean, Sebastian Mack it's going to be interesting to watch him this year, like how often they lean on him, because he seems like that's a guy who seems to have the dog in him. That's a guy who seems to want the ball at all times. He seems to think that he can make the play that will win the game on every single possession. I kind of fell in love with Sebastian Mack and Maui. But yeah, they're super young. Adam Dembona, sophomore, coming back, was big time for them. Dylan Andrews is stepping into a much bigger role in this team this year. UCLA and Gonzaga are two programs that are taking a step back by their standards, but they're still going to be in the mix. But yeah, UCLA is it's interesting because they feel like they should probably be ranked because they lose 2 games to 2 good teams in Maui. And they were close in both of them. Marquette and Gonzaga both. They gave them both good games. Marquette came down to the last shot. So why is UCLA not ranked? Well, UCLA is not ranked because they haven't really beaten anybody yet. So it's like they're in an interesting middle ground right now. I think they will spend most of this season ranked, and I think they are probably going to emerge. Colorado's good. USC has a lot of talent. It wouldn't surprise me if UCLA is, for all the questions surrounding UCLA entering this season, it will not surprise me at all if by the end of the year the Pac-12 is back to being Arizona and UCLA, like it kind of always is. And then this final year of the Pac-12, that makes the most sense, doesn't it? In the final year of the Pac-12, let Arizona and UCLA battle it out for who wins the conference. It's going to be Arizona. UCLA is too young, I think. UCLA is going to go through a lot of growing pains. But the talent is there. And they UCLA, I'm going to call it now, UCLA feels like a team that by March will be dangerous. They'll be like a dangerous 7 seed, that like people are high on because they have some talent and they're putting it together. But I envision them taking some bad losses this year. But I like what I saw out of them, and I do think they are very talented. And Sebastian Mack is someone I'm keeping my eye on. So there you have. Oh, Syracuse. I forgot about Syracuse. They might suck. They might suck, as it turns out. Syracuse might actually suck. They blew out Chaminade, but they were 1-2. The one game they won, they blew out Chaminade. The other 2 games they lost, they got blown out. They might suck. They should have lost to Colgate too, before the Maui Invitational. Cody's the resident Syracuse fan on the show.
Just wait.
Just wait. Okay.
What do you think's gonna happen when we're playing the best teams in the country?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want you to lose by 30. That's all. I just I was kind of hoping for more of like a UCLA situation where like they lost 2 games as well, but they put up fights. In those
also,
2
a neutral
games.
site. It's not really like our thing. Maybe we'll get back.
It was cultural shock for Syracuse kids to be in Hawaii. Is that what you're saying?
It's
like polar opposite. Yeah, too much surfing. That's what it was. Yeah, too much. All right,
Yeah.
I got you.
Just wait.
I said they might suck. I didn't say they did.
Well,
my note right here says might suck ?
I appreciate it.
So I haven't definitively said anything. But yeah, those are my Maui thoughts. Fun tournament. I thought it delivered on the hype, and it was hopefully it's back on in Lahaina next year. I don't know what the plan is. That was very depressing, but necessary, obviously, to see all the damage that was done with the fires and all that kind of stuff. That sucked, but hopefully it did seem like the spirit of Maui is like the people of Maui, the people of Lahaina seem to be like pulling themselves up and bringing good vibes and ready to rebuild. So hopefully they have it back on in Lahaina Civic Center next year. But if they don't, I'll still love the tournament just the same. Congrats to Purdue on being number 1. With that being said, it's now time for the entree part of this show, TJ. It's time to dive into the fraud power rankings. Enough's enough. We have to talk about the frauds. Quick break to talk about our friends at Factor. This holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and you'll stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos. Too busy with holiday plans to cook, but want to make sure you're eating well? With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Skip the stress of meal prepping over the holidays with Factor. Choose from 35-plus weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never frozen meals that support a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal preferences, all delivered right to your door and ready to eat in 2 minutes. Need an extra boost to support your wellness goals and feel your best during the holidays. Try Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving this November. Get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Head to factormeals.com/Titus50 and use code Titus50 to get 50% off. That's code Titus50 at factormeals.com/Titus50 to get 50% off. The weather here in Chicago, and I assume most of the country, is getting very cold, very disgusting. You don't want to leave your house just to go to the grocery store to buy food, to then have to make, like, if you get hungry at night, you got Factor right there for you. Just have them in the fridge, pop them out, make some Factor, and you'll be ready to go. Factormeals.com/Titus50. Use code Titus50, 50% off. I should put St. Mary's on here. They just lost at home to Utah on Monday. St. Mary's is now 3-4. They're a team that was ranked in the preseason. Were supposed to, with Gonzaga having a quote unquote down year, they were supposed to compete for a West Coast Conference championship. Aiden Mahaney's back, who was the best freshman in college basketball that no one really paid attention to last year. And he was supposed to carry them to great things this year. And boy, I don't want to overreact, but I feel like St. Mary's might have blown their chance in an at-large bid already. I think we're not even to December yet, and they're 3-4. All four of those, they have yet to play an away game, by the way. So like it's not like the schedule's insane where they're just going on the road and playing these true road games and losing at Purdue and at Kansas and shit. They've lost twice at home and twice on neutral courts. They desperately miss Logan Johnson. But yeah, I feel like they lost to Weber State at home, and that was kind of the fraud moment. And since then, it's just kind of been a continuous downward slide for them. They've lost 3 of their last 4. I think they started 2-0, and they just keep losing. So St. Mary's is not on the fraud power rankings. So congratulations, St. Mary's. You're so bad. You're not even a fraud. You're just bad. That's like worse. Sometimes not being on the fraud power rankings is actually worse because you're so bad. You can't be a fraud if you're just bad. No one's saying the Carolina Panthers are frauds. You're just saying they suck.
They would love to be frauds.
Yeah, they would absolutely love it. They're not frauds. Here we go. Number 5 on the fraud power rankings this week. The Mississippi Valley State women. I don't know if you saw this, TJ. The Devilettes is what they call themselves. The Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils is the men, I believe, and the women's are the Devilettes. They took a 2-0 lead on South Carolina, who I believe is the number 1 team in the country in women's basketball. Do I have that right? I think that's right. AP women's basketball pool. South Carolina's number 1. Yeah, South Carolina's number 1. Why do I doubt myself? They take a 2-0 lead on South Carolina, right? I live bet Mississippi Valley State plus 81.5. Put the farm on it. I was like, they're absolutely going to cover 81.5. These motherfuckers lose 100. What was the final score? 119 to. I didn't even write it down because it was 1,000. They lost by 100. Yeah, it was 101 to 19. They lost. 101 to 19. Should there be a mercy rule at some point? Like at what point do you step in? The fact that these are 2 Division I teams as well is wild to me. The fact that now, granted, it might be the worst Division I women's team versus the best Division I women's team. But 101 to 19, like I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting soft as I get older, but I'm like, I don't. Who does this benefit? Like, why was this game not just called at halftime?
Right.
Why did it?
At some point, if you're the coach of, would you say Missouri Valley?
Mississippi Valley State,
you got to
yeah.
just walk off the court.
You just got to,
or
yeah.
fake some sort of emergency or something.
Yeah, I got diarrhea. Sorry,
Yeah.
our whole team just got diarrhea.
This is not the first. South Carolina beat Charleston a couple years ago by 80. Like, they do this. Like, at some point, you have to preserve your players almost.
But
like,
why?
Right, this is not.
I think Mississippi Valley State probably gets a check for it, right? They probably get paid to go get their ass kicked.
Yeah.
But, like, why would South Carolina want to – it just seems like a waste of time for everybody.
Yeah, you're just running a practice on the court at that point. Like,
Yeah.
It's not a teachable loss when you lose by 1,000 points.
Yeah. But, yeah, I was devastated. I saw they were up to they did jump out to a 2-0 lead. And I was like, man.
Stop the count.
Stop the count. Upset brewing.
Yeah. I got
And
the
then-
screenshots when we go up against you guys in
Yeah.
football. I'm like, yeah, all right, we
Oh, yeah,
won.
that's right. You guys
Were we up 7-0? We won.
That's funny. And then they lost by 82.
Oops. I don't remember I only remember the good parts.
Number 4 on the fraud power rankings this week, Creighton. Spanked by Colorado State in the Hall of Fame Classic. Isaiah Stevens for Colorado State. Hell of a ball player, by the way. About to score. He's going to end up with 2,000 career points for the Rams. They got the big Colorado rivalry. Is that Wednesday? I think it is. It's this week. I don't know if it's Wednesday or Saturday. I'm getting my schedule mixed up. But they play Colorado State. Colorado is a sneaky good rivalry college basketball game this year. I don't know how intense the rivalry is. I don't know how much hatred there is, but if it's anything like the football game, by the way, the football game was wild.
They hated each other.
They
in
fucking
football.
hated each other. But then they Travis Hunter took the picture with the dude that was trying to take his head off. They like met each other the day after and like took a picture, and they're like, we don't hate each other, and everyone's like, damn it, dude, we're trying to like have a race war here, Travis. Like, what were you? Those of us on the internet, we're trying to get into. Fuck, man. What about us? If the basketball programs are like that, it'll be. Even if they're not, even if they don't hate each other, I think it's gonna be an awesome basketball game. Colorado State plays Colorado on. I'm looking it up now. It's on Wednesday, but anyway. Creighton was a team that still can be great. I still think they could go on to compete in the Big East. But Trey Alexander was averaging 21, 7, and 7 with 2 steals, leading into this. They played in Kansas City, I believe, in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, in the Hall of Fame thing. He was averaging 21, 7, and 7, shooting 38% from the 3. Going into this Hall of Fame thing, goes 4 for 26 in 2 games versus Loyola and Colorado State. Had 5 turnovers versus Loyola. Trey Alexander did not play well. Creighton just, they were a team that I felt like could sneak into the upper echelon of the Big East and really put their they were such a good basketball team last year, and they were good enough to win a national championship. They lost to San Diego State in a close one. San Diego State obviously goes on to play UConn in the national championship game. The big what if, UConn looked great in that NCAA tournament run. UConn looked great in non-conference play all of last year. Creighton's a conference team though. If Creighton takes San Diego State's spot, goes on that exact same run, and now it's Creighton UConn in the national title game. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that UConn wipes the floor with them. Anyway, all that is to say, it was lining up for Creighton to have a big year, and Creighton getting spanked by Colorado State in this Hall of Fame Classic puts them at number 4, although if I'm being completely honest, I'm not actually worried about Creighton. They shot 6 for 29 from 3. That happens. That's the unfortunate part about modern college basketball is it's like hard to draw conclusions in single games because like sometimes it's just like, yeah, they got open shots and missed them, and that's the way it goes. You have to make shots to win at this level, folks, and sometimes you just miss them. But I'm not actually worried, but I just wanted to point that out that Creighton did get their asses handed to them by Colorado State. But the Colorado State might be good. We'll find out more on Wednesday. I think Colorado State could be decent at least. Number 3 on the fraud power rankings, triple doubles in general. I remember a time when a triple double was considered like the holy grail of basketball. Like if you were a guy who was getting triple doubles, you were a great player. If you were doing it, if you did it once, you had a hell of a night. You did it a couple times, you were maybe the best player in the country. And if you're someone like Oscar Robertson in 1962, it's the biggest deal of all time that you average a triple-double for an entire season. And then Russell Westbrook comes along, kind of ruined the triple-double for everybody. Russ wins NBA MVP in 2017, averaging a triple-double. First player to do it since Oscar did in 62. And it was cool at the time, but then he did it again the next year. And everyone's like, well, fuck, we hate Russ. So, but he is averaging a triple-double, and he does it. He's done it now twice, and I think he did it like a couple more times after that. Where do we land on triple doubles? I don't really know. Anyway, all that is to say this: Tristan Newton had a triple double this past Friday against Manhattan. He had 15 points, 13 assists, 10 rebounds. Tristan Newton's been playing great basketball. We talked to Rob Dowster about it. That Tristan Newton last year I felt was up and down a little bit. The downs were never the bad play was never that bad. The good play was really, really good at times. So, like, it was never like this guy sucks. It was just more of like he's a little rocky at times. He has not been rocky for UConn this year. He's just been awesome. But at the same time, UConn has had 14 triple-doubles in the history of the Connecticut program. 14. Tristan Newton has 3 of them, and he's played for them for just a couple years. I don't mean to say that Tristan Newton's not a good basketball player. He is. He's a very good basketball player. He could be an All-American this year. Given the talent that UConn has had through the years, the fact that Tristan Newton leads all of Connecticut basketball in triple-doubles just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And I apologies to the Newton family, but like that should not be Tristan Newton. That should not be a record held by Tristan Newton. The most triple-doubles in UConn basketball history.
I saw this too, and that just seems staggeringly low, like for an overall number for a college pro. Like I know college triple-doubles are hard to come by, but 14 in the illustrious, like,
dude,
quote unquote,
if that's crazy to you,
blue blood history of UConn is wild.
If that's crazy to you, there's more. By the way, Tristan Newton almost had a triple double against Indiana, so he almost had 4 in his career. But if that's crazy to you, TJ, this is going to blow your mind. Kansas has had 4 triple doubles, 4, in its history, and Kansas invented basketball. Kansas had a program for 4,000 years, and they've had 4 triple-double instances in the history of the program. 2 of them have happened in the last couple weeks by Kevin McCullough.
Whoa.
So yeah, Kevin McCullough, great basketball player. He's if you told me Kevin McCullough, you believe Kevin McCullough is one of the best players in the country this year, I'm not going to fight you on that. I might want you to hash it out and really give me the list, and I want to see what it looks like, but I don't care enough to fight you. That's not an opinion that I think is that egregious, so whatever. But for Kevin McCullough to have literally half of the triple-doubles in the history of Kansas's program, that's fucking insane. That's insane. So I had to put triple-doubles on the fraud power rankings. My only conclusion is that, like, they don't actually matter, and they kind of never did. It was just like an oddity that Oscar Robertson did it in 1962, and no one else had really done it. But I think we're at a point as a basketball culture where I don't think we can care about triple doubles. But here's the problem with that, TJ, is that that somewhere along the line there is going to be a legendary triple double, and we're all going to be back in on it. Like there's going to be, like if Wembanyama gets a triple double,
right?
If Victor Wembanyama gets like 3 triple doubles in a row, everyone's going to pretend like that's the coolest thing they've ever seen in basketball. And we're gonna get sucked back into the trap, but I think triple doubles are done. I don't think you can be Kansas's program and say Kevin McCullough has half of our triple doubles, and they happened in the last couple weeks, back to back. By the way, he did it against Chaminade, and he did it against Kentucky here in Chicago. So
I'm looking into this triple double thing. You might have to fraud watch the stats on triple doubles.
What happened?
In college, assists, steals, and blocks weren't officially tracked at the player level by the NCAA until the 80s.
Oh!
So we have no idea how many, let's say, Oscar Robinson had at U Cincinnati, or Bill Russell, or Bob Cousy, or...
I mean, Wilt Chamberlain was probably averaging quintuple doubles.
Because I looked at the list of NCAA Division I basketball career triple-doubles leaders, and there's 6 guys with more than 5 triple-doubles on it.
That's insane. That's insane. How is it? Okay, but that still doesn't make sense though, because if you're tracking them in the 80s, like Kansas has had some ball players that have come through since the 80s.
Shaq is the only guy on this list that's went on to be an NBA Hall of Famer.
How is it so rare, and yet also something that, again, no shade to Tristan Newton and Kevin McCullough, but like they are not all-time legends at their programs. That these guys, I don't know. That's just a bizarre. That's bizarre. That's bizarre. I don't know. I don't know what the conclusion is. Every so often, probably once a day, there's a moment in every day where I'm like, I wish I was smarter, and that's right now is that moment for me. It's like I wish I knew why this was happening.
I think you did fraud the right person though by frauding just triple doubles in general.
Triple doubles in general. Yeah, you're right. At number 2 on the fraud power rankings, Arkansas. First time in Eric Musselman's career, that he at Nevada or at Arkansas has lost 3 November games. They're lucky it's not 4 in a row, by the way. They lost to Greensboro at home, they lost to Memphis, and they lost to North Carolina in the Bahamas, which aren't embarrassing losses, but still, it's kind of been Arkansas's MO to look really good. at this time of year, and so far they do not look great. They have a massive game now. That's the thing is they do have Duke coming in on Wednesday, a very massive game. They can flip the script real fast and turn things around. But went to double overtime against Stanford as well. They are very, very lucky that they have not lost 4 in a row. Not playing defense at all. They still can't really shoot, although they've kind of gotten better at that. And also, like, even though Arkansas can't shoot, that kind of feels familiar to me, so I don't panic that much about it that they can't shoot, because it's like that's just kind of who they are. And they have gotten better. Like they got guys that can shoot, but Devo Davis is not shooting the ball well right now. That'll turn around. There is hope, is what I'm saying. Just like Creighton, like I threw Arkansas on the list, but I don't think it's like panic in the sense that like Arkansas might miss the tournament quite yet, but it is like I did think Arkansas felt like they could potentially be a sleeper national title pick by the end of the year, and I am very much off that right now. They could come back around. That is kind of Muss's MO is get hot at the start of the season, get hot at the end of the season, and kind of have some bumps in the road along the way. But that's kind of also what's giving me pause, is because they usually are playing well out of the gate, and right now it does feel like they're almost too deep. It feels like their lineups are in flux. They don't really know who they want to lean on. They have all these transfers, all these new guards. They have a bunch of dudes that are used to being the best players on their team or close to it, and all that's fine and well. But I think they're just trying to figure out their chemistry a little bit. They're not really pushing the tempo like I thought they would. I thought they'd play a lot faster than they are. I'm actually not concerned long term yet about Arkansas. I think they will figure it out. I think I'm chalking it up right now to just like it's a lot of new guys. It's a lot of pieces that are trying to figure out how they fit in. And I do think Muss is a hell of a coach, and they'll figure it out. But I just wanted to call attention to that Eric Musselman has never lost 3 November games in his career, and he's now done it. And he almost lost 4. They were very lucky to beat Stanford. So Arkansas is going through a little foreign feeling right now, and we'll see, because they got Duke coming in on Wednesday, and that place is going to be absolutely bonkers. We got to get to a game there, TJ.
Yeah.
When we dance on Mr. Ed's grave, when I dance on Mr. Ed's grave, but you're coming with me. We have to swing by Arkansas, and we have to go to Fayetteville and go to a game.
Who picked?
And then number 1 on the fraud power rankings. It really tears me up to do this, TJ. It does. I want to be. I don't want to just keep going back to this well, but I just have to be objective with the fraud power rankings and call them like I see them. Number 1 is Hunter Dickinson. It is. It's Hunter Dickinson, number 1 on the first fraud power rankings of the season, and here's why. You might think it's because I think he's an asshole. Not the case. I think it's the exact opposite. He's number 1 on the fraud power rankings because Samuel L. Jackson tweeted about Hunter Dickinson. He said, "Damn, this Dickinson motherfucker on Kansas Hoops flops like he's on @KU Hoops, flops like he's on a soccer pitch with 3 exclamation points." And if this happens last year, if this happens to Michigan Hunter Dickinson, he is a total dick about this. Like, yeah. and he would be well within his rights, to be completely fair. Like, if a guy is saying you're a flopping, this Dickinson motherfucker flops like he's on a soccer pitch. If Hunter Dickinson was like, suck my balls, Samuel L. Jackson, I'd be like, that's fair play. The guy did call you out publicly. You're allowed to chirp back at him. Hunter Dickinson didn't do that, TJ. He kind of took the high road. He kind of just laughed it off. And that's shocking to me. And that's why he's a fraud to me. Because, like, the Hunter Dickinson I know and love would have just gone scorched earth on this and would have like, has he gone soft?
I don't know if he's gone soft, or maybe the PR around the Kansas program is a little tighter than the PR around the Michigan program, which I would believe. But yeah, if you want to be the villain, be the villain. This is like an excellent opportunity for you to make like some sort of headline by like tweeting "fuck you, Samuel L. Jackson" or something, or wearing like a shirt in warm-ups, or doing something other than like just talking about it and be like this is a massive, if nothing else, media opportunity. And that's what he does.
Put my brain in a pretzel, dude, because like Hunter Dickinson doing all his villainous acts made me not like him, but now I don't like that he's not doing them.
Yeah,
I can't get a read on this guy.
Yeah,
he's not. I think you're right though. I think it's just Kansas has him on a tight leash,
right. Hunter
as they
face
should.
turn.
Yeah, Yeah, but yeah, maybe it's a Hunter face turn. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he did get humbled. You know, he did start this. I do think it is interesting though that he did before the season started. He had the quote where he was like, "I want everyone to know that we're better than you," and then since then there kind of has not been a lot of Hunter Dickinson headlines.
Yeah.
You know, as far as shit coming out of his mouth or what he's tweeting or anything else.
It's
So
also like that type of
like
player is so much better fit for a team that's not ranked in the top 5 in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a lot easier to be like the dickhead and like pump your chest out and shit when you're like upsetting teams rather than when you're like expected to win every single game and be the best player in the country.
Right.
So it is kind of harder for him to play the role I think he wants to play on one of the better teams in the country.
Yeah, Hunter Dickinson's not bigger than Michigan's program, but Juwan Howard has accomplished nothing without him.
Yeah.
So you could have made the argument that like when he was at Michigan, he was kind of the guy in the program. But Kansas, absolutely not.
Right.
Like you're not like Bill Self doesn't play that shit. You know, like he doesn't need that on his team. So I do think that's what happened, but it's a bummer. It's a bummer because it was setting up for Hunter Dickinson with Kansas being number 1, with Bill Self, with Kansas getting away with, we talked about it on the show. I don't really care that much, but it is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of schools that Kansas got linked into all this FBI stuff, and there seemed to be a lot of damning evidence, and Bill Self kind of gets a slap on the wrist, and they won a national title as they're being investigated. And now they bring in Hunter Dickinson, and they bring in the kid from Texas who, they immediately kick off the team because he was kind of a piece of shit. And everyone knew it at the time, but Bill Self still brought like all of that stuff in the offseason was heading towards Kansas being the villain of college basketball this year. And I don't know, I'm just kind of let down on that whole storyline so far. I'm just kind of let down on it because I think they're not giving Hunter enough breathing room to flap his wings and fly like he wants to. And also I think Kansas losing kind of takes some wins out of those sails too. I think we needed Kansas to be as good as they were expected to be, and having Marquette kind of hand it to them, and then Hunter Dickinson gets called out by Samuel L. Jackson, doesn't really say anything. Yeah, I think the Kansas villain arc is done.
Yeah.
I think it's done. So, and we didn't even make it to December with that. But I don't know. There's still a lot of time. There's still and there's still a lot of people listening to this. They're like, buddy, let me tell you something. I don't care what the fuck Kansas does or doesn't do. They will always be the villain to me.
Yeah.
So,
well, we'll see if Hunter wants off the fraud power rankings, he would respond to this. So we'll see what happens.
Great point, Hunter. Respond. God damn it. God damn it. What has my life become? Just like trolling.
Hey, Hunter.
Hey, Hunter. Come on out, you pussy. He used to, we got into it a little bit, right? But not really. We never actually like got into it. We would just like talk shit to each other on our own podcasts.
You just like subtweet each other. Yeah. It's a will they, won't they type thing.
Yeah. And Hunter would call me out for not playing at Ohio State. Yeah, and I was like, that's the brand, buddy.
Did you actually know that you didn't play?
Like,
were you aware that you actually weren't a starter?
All right, that's the fraud power rankings. Shoutouts before we go. I got to do it, TJ. I got to, and especially on a weekend where the Buckeye football team took a devastating loss to Michigan. I gotta do PR damage control, and we got to pivot to the basketball team because what a great just mood enhancer that was. It was on the same day too, but Ohio State football loses to Michigan at noon Eastern, and then I think like the Ohio State basketball team played at like 7 or something. We played Santa Clara, who not a bad program, good program. They've had 2 last 2 years. They've had a first round pick, Jalen Williams and Pajimski have come out of Santa Clara. Back-to-back years, they've produced first-round picks. Herb Sindek, head coach, decent program. But the Buckeyes in this Emerald Coast Classic, which is definitely a prestigious thing that everybody knows about. Everybody talks about the Emerald Coast Classic. Everywhere I go, it's like, Titus, who do you think's going to win the Emerald Coast Classic this year? And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's hard to say. I think when you get on the floor of the Northwest Florida College in front of that raucous environment, anything could happen. You know, it's anybody's game at that point. It is a hotly contested tournament, and I'll be damned. The Buckeyes handed it to Alabama, and we beat the fuck out of Santa Clara. And I'll say it, TJ, it's a trap that I am very familiar with, but I've fallen into it again. I'm excited about Ohio State basketball again, and I really, really love this team. And unfortunately, this is a pattern that does feel familiar, and the Holtman era Buckeyes have in the past been really hot in November and December, and then conference play starts in earnest and the wheels fall off a little bit. So like, I know what's coming, but I'm gonna enjoy the ride until we get there. And then the team, like Bruce Thornton is awesome. I loved him last year. He had such bad stretches last year where I just wanted to give him a hug, because I was like, dude, I know you're good and I know you're going to be good here, but you suck right now. And I so badly just want to hug you and tell you that it will be good. He's good now. And Roddy Gale's very good. Zed Key lost a ton of weight. He's on his TJ bullshit. Looks like a completely different person. Coming off the bench. I love him in that role. I love the transfers we brought in. I'm very, very excited about Ohio State basketball again. And I know I shouldn't be, so I just want to say that.
No, fuck it. You should. Like, it's fun to get excited about.
Is it okay? Am I allowed to be excited about my team, but also not necessarily think we're going to win the national championship?
Sure.
Yeah, because that's where I'm at. It's like, yeah, I don't have delusions here. Yeah. I do think we maybe should have been ranked, but I don't mind that we weren't. I like flying under the radar. But yeah, I want the Buckeyes to be competitive, and I want to deliver the tiers to this company that they deserve for me not, playing ball for the Ohio State Michigan stream. But I do promise you that if the Buckeyes make the tournament in March Madness, that'll be a far more entertaining stream than I would have been. I would have honestly, if I was at the stream for the Ohio State Michigan game, I probably would have left from how annoyed I was, and it wouldn't have been because Ohio State was losing. It just would have been like, y'all watch football very differently than how I watch football. Like, I can't do this shit. Sport. Yeah, exactly.
Also, the situation they were in for that stream, I don't know if I would be able, like, if Rutgers were ever in a game that was that emotionally charged, they could hear the stadium ahead of the broadcast, so they knew when something was about to happen. They weren't like quite sure what happened, but they like heard the stadium screaming before the pick.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if I would be able to deal with the emotions of that situation being right next to the stadium.
It's just I don't know. I don't want to get into it.
No, it's a contact sport.
Into it, but yeah, I mean, like, I do care about, like, it sucked. I was very sad. I was sad. Yeah. It was devastating to watch Ohio State lose to Michigan. It was, but also like, anytime I see Ohio State fans online and how they process the loss, I do have a moment where it's like, do I care about this? Because it kind of, like, as compared to these people, I don't think. And that's how I felt like even watching the stream, where I was like, I would not fit in on that stream. And I'm saying all that just to say, TJ, that if the Buckeyes have the team that I hope they have this year, and we do make the tournament, I will deliver on a stream if that's what's asked of me. I don't mind that. And I will produce tears, and I will produce like living and dying by every shot and all that sort of shit. Because that's where I'm at with this team right now. I think the Buckeyes are we couldn't miss in these two games. And I know we've already dropped one to Texas A&M, but I think Texas A&M is a really good basketball team. And yeah, I'm back in on Ohio State basketball. Lord help me. What else? Speaking of my guys at Butler might be good too. Shout out to them, dude. I watched a little Butler basketball. I got my old coach Thad Mata, obviously leading the charge there at Butler. Greg Oden on staff, John Diebler on staff. They hung with FAU. They gave FAU a pretty good game. Smoked Boise State, who's kind of like Santa Clara, and not just that they're both the Broncos, but an under the radar, a better program than I think most people realize. But also, I'm not going to get crazy with it and say that they're one of the best programs in the country or anything. But it was a significant win. They beat the hell out of them. So Butler is sneakily not. Butler was, as a reminder, in the preseason, the Big East coaches or the Big East media, I don't know, whatever poll it was. Butler got one more point than DePaul did. Butler was next to last in the preseason Big East poll, and they were almost tied with DePaul for dead last in the expectations going into this Big East season. And so far, Butler looks pretty good. So, yeah, I think they're going to be way better this year than they were last year. Speaking of FAU, shout out to FAU bouncing back after losing to Bryant. Beat Butler in a fun game. Beat Texas A&M and then beat Virginia Tech, a good Texas A&M team, I should say, and then beat Virginia Tech by 34 at the they were down there at the Wide World of Sports, the Disney bullshit. I don't know what the tournament's called. The ESPN Disney bullshit, I think, is the official name. But FAU might be back. Preseason top 10 team, Barstool Invitational co-champions along with Mississippi State.
Yep.
And then they lost to Bryant. And I said when they lost to Bryant, I think they might have just let a number one seed potential slip through their hands. But who cares about that, I guess. I guess that felt like it was big in the moment. But, FAU actually kind of has a difficult schedule. They got Liberty on Wednesday, who's a pretty good basketball team, by the way. They got College of Charleston, who I don't want to open that can of worms yet, but College of Charleston was really good last year, or at least they won a lot of games last year. I'm not ready to feud with the Charleston fans just yet, so I'm going to hold off on that. But they do play College of Charleston on Saturday, which, if we're going off last year's results, two teams that won a lot of basketball games. We'll just put it that way. And then FAU plays Arizona and Vegas in a few weeks, so they still have some opportunities before they get into the American part of the American Athletic Conference part of the schedule, and kind of disappear forever until they play Memphis again, or until they play Memphis twice. But yeah, I do think they probably fucked up their chance at a 1 seed by losing to Bryant, because that Bryant loss feels like it's worth 5 losses. And I think Purdue's going to be a shoo-in for a number 1 seed. I think whoever emerges from the Big 12 between Houston and Kansas, but it'll probably be Kansas. But even if it's not, they'll be a 1 seed. A Big East team will be a 1 seed. And then the rest is your Dukes and your Arizonas and your other Big East teams, So I don't think there's a path that FAU actually gets a 1 seed unless they run the table and do it in impressive fashion. But also, who gives a shit? You don't need a 1 seed to win a national championship or go back to the Final Four. So shout out to FAU for getting back on track after a horrendous loss to Bryant. And shout out to Villanova for doing the same. After losing to Penn, Villanova wins the battle for Atlantis. Eric Dixon, 34 points against North Carolina. Justin Moore is still awesome for them. Villanova, I don't necessarily think that they are back in the sense that that was a blip against Penn and we don't have to worry about that anymore. Now we're back to playing Villanova basketball. I do think they're going to be heavily relying on Dixon and Moore, and they have an experienced roster. They have a lot of old dudes. They got the Bomba kid from Washington State and Burton from Richmond, the 2 seniors they brought in. They got this core 4 of dudes that are that played God knows how much basketball in their lives. But Moore and Dixon are going to carry them, and I think Villanova's success is contingent upon how much support those 2 guys get, and also do those guys have a random ass off night against a team in the Big East that snuck up on them, like a Seton Hall or something, that are they going to drop games like that? I expect them to. But at the same time, it obviously winning the battle for Atlantis. It was a field that I don't think was as good as it looked on paper in terms of when you look at the logos. That field popped, the battle for Atlantis field. The specific teams that were there, I don't think are super awesome. They might be by the end of the year. A lot of questions are Carolina, we're not sure how good they are. Arkansas, we already talked about. Memphis is it's just a lot of. I can't quite get there with a lot of these teams, but Villanova did look pretty good, and they did win the thing. So and this is after they lost to Penn, and everyone said, "Holy shit, fire Kyle Neptune, he sucks. Bring back Jay Wright." So that's good. Shout out to Villanova for that. What else? I had 2 other shout outs. I wanted to shout out. I wrote down fun team alert. So I have 2 fun teams, and I wanted to call attention to 2 teams for people out there that maybe you hate your team, or maybe you like watching your team, but you want to watch some other college basketball, and you don't just want to always watch the top teams all the time, and you want some other teams in the mix. 2 teams, if you don't care whether they win, lose, or otherwise, that are going to be fun to watch all season. And both of these teams are undefeated, so they do win a lot. Number 1 is BYU, who is 6-0. They are averaging 92 points per game as a team. They have 5 dudes on this team averaging 10-plus points per game, and 2 more that are averaging 9.5. So, yeah, 7 guys are basically averaging 10 points a game on this team. That's insane. They lead the country in three-point attempts per game and 3-point makes per game. They're shooting like 40% almost from the three-point line as a team. They're third in assists per game. They're just sharing the rock. They're very balanced. They're the Indiana Pacers of college basketball is what they are. And they were picked to finish 13th in the Big 12. So they're an underdog story. And Mark Pope is a hell of a coach and a hell of a guy, and I'm a huge fan of his. And I don't know. I really, really like him and would love to see BYU have some success. So BYU has been hot out of the gate. They beat San Diego State by 9. They beat NC State by 9. Blew out Arizona State. Barstool Invitational runner-up Arizona State. I should say co-runner-up. I'm sorry. They beat Arizona State by almost 30. BYU is a very, very fun team. If you're looking for a team to watch that, again, you don't really care whether they win or lose or whatever else. You're just like, I want to be entertained. I want to watch college basketball and not think it's boring as hell or that guys can't make simple plays and all that. Watch BYU. They share the rock. They can shoot. They've been a ton of fun so far. And then the other team, shout out our guy Ebo and also PFT commenter James Madison, the JMU Dukes, who opened the season beating Michigan State. Every game they play in seems to be close. They feel destined to just play like an overtime game once a week. They've won them all so far, but they push tempo and they can shoot the piss out of the ball. They've had 3 of their – I think they've played 6 games. I think they're 6-0 as well. They've had half of their games they've hit more than 10 threes in the game. They hit 17 against Kent State. And every game feels close. So I think JMU so far – They have a ton of seniors on their team too, but it feels like, it's kind of college basketball. I guess I've caught myself saying that a lot. That a lot of these teams just have a ton of old guys, but I guess when eligibility requirements are thrown out the window and COVID just like broke everything, every team is super old. But JMU has a lot of experience and a lot of old dudes that are want like one big moment before their college careers end, and it's shaping up to be that for JMU this year. They're going to be a pretty good team, and I think I said it when it happened. When Michigan State lost to JMU, it was definitely worth clowning them for. When you're the number 4 team in the country and you open your season losing at home to an unranked team, that's not good, and you should get made fun of for it. But at the same time, I do think that loss is going to age very well in the sense that like we're going to look up at the end of the year and be like, oh yeah, JMU. Pretty good basketball team. So watch JMU if you can. I don't know how often they're on TV, but I recommend watching JMU because they push the tempo and every game seems to be close. And they can bomb threes and they have some fun players. So that's those are my shout outs. Those are the 2 teams that stood out to me as like kind of flying under the radar as being very, very fun to watch. But the BYU team is my number 1. BYU has been not only good, but very, very fun to watch. And yeah, that's important. We need to point out the teams that are fun. Shout out to Mike Bray, who used to like be the king of fun basketball teams back when he had Notre Dame rolling. Like those Notre Dame teams were, they didn't always win every game, but like every time I'd watch Notre Dame, I was like, man, I'm enjoying myself. This is such a pleasant experience. Anything else, boys, before we go?
Syracuse has hired a football coach. Congrats, Fran Brown.
Wow, they didn't have a football coach?
Oh.
How long
Best
had
recruiter in the nation.
How long had they not had a football coach?
They fired
seasons?
Dino. They fired Dino this week. But
Georgia Pipeline.
Oh, okay.
Rutgers
Looking
Pipeline.
strong.
Excellent recruiter. My other thing was, I think I'm getting trolled, Dylan Harper's doing trolling, and I don't know if it's about me or about.
Yeah,
Rutgers.
you said this.
I don't know if he's trolling Rutgers fans or if he's trolling Duke and Indiana fans, and I'd like to get your take on it.
Yeah, what's the situation?
So, first of all, if you're like in the recruiting cycle enough that you're stalking a player's Instagram to see if he's archiving posts or not, maybe just like get a new hobby or something. But he did archive his official visit post from his Rutgers visit, and he pinned his Indiana and Duke visit posts.
Okay, so
yesterday.
Okay, explain to an old man what exactly. So archive means what?
So on his feed, on his Instagram
Right.
page, hit the top 3 things he had pinned: Duke, Indiana, Rutgers, his official visit, like photo shoots.
Mm-hmm.
He removed the Rutgers one. He
Right.
hit it so that it wasn't on his page anymore.
Okay.
And then
But
12 hours went by, and people picked up on it, and then he put it back up.
Okay.
So, are Rutgers fans getting trolled, or are Duke and Indiana fans getting trolled? Is he doing that because he's removing Rutgers from his considerations, or is he doing it to prepare for.
Ace Bailey's already signed.
Yes.
And they're friends.
Yes.
Like close friends.
Yes. Well, I guess yeah, it seems like
Well,
it.
he was at his signing, right?
Yeah.
He was at the Ace Bailey signing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this feels like he's
This does feel in too deep to even be talking about.
Yeah, of course. But that's how this works, especially when you're a program like Rutgers. This doesn't happen all the time.
Well, the reactions from these three fan bases are very, very different about the situation.
Yeah.
The Duke fans are reacting as, we don't even want him. We haven't thought about this kid in weeks. We're over him. Who cares about this? The Indiana fans are like, we might be back. Like, we might be back in the mix. Like, Woodson might have done something here. We might be in play for this kid again. And Rutgers fans are just lighting their hair on fire. They're like, oh my fucking God, this guy is falling. It's happening again. Like, we're fucked.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to Duke. I'm just going off of vibes. I don't know anything. I'm just going off of Duke doesn't feel right. My read, and I'm not just saying this to make you feel better, TJ, I do think it's setting up for him to he's in his mind, he's doing a swerve, and he's like, I'm going to take Rutgers off, make everyone think I'm not going to Rutgers, and then announce Rutgers.
Right.
Because I don't know what the point of it would be otherwise.
Right. I guess that's the question.
I don't know why you would like neg someone unless you were interested in them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the payoff is to like fuck with someone's emotions unless you see it as like a flirtatious thing where we're going to ultimately end up together. Otherwise, you're just kind of a dick.
Right.
So that's my read on it. I think that's what it is. I think he's just like, in his mind, he's just like flirting with Rutgers a little bit. But also, this is not dating. This is college basketball recruiting.
Right. I don't know. This was like something that was put in front of me, and people were like, "What do we do about this?"
No, I don't think you were.
I just wanted to at least put it out to a second opinion to make sure I wasn't.
Has he removed? It was just the post for
12 hours.
It was. He put it back up.
Yep.
Okay. All right. What could that be?
Maybe there's a better post coming.
Yeah,
that's what my first thought was he was taking the Rutgers one down so he could put up like a committed post. But
what has he done anything else? He hasn't. No. There's been nothing else. There's been no other breadcrumbs. Yeah, I don't think it's that big a deal. Could it be as simple as like a misclick? I
think it's like a few clicks in a row to archive a post. Like, it's kind of deliberate.
Okay. Because my mind always goes there when I see guys who like porn tweets. I always say, listen, it hasn't happened to me yet, but when I'm thumbing through tweets, my thumb does end up right by that like button a lot, and it is plausible to me that you could accidentally like the wrong post. But yes, if this doesn't seem like it could be accidental, I think you're fine. I think you're fine, or he's an asshole. I think that those are the two. Either way, like you are now well within your rights to have a blood feud with this guy if he doesn't pick Rutgers. Cool. Like at this point, he has teased you guys enough.
Yep.
That if he doesn't choose Rutgers, you are well within your rights to prey on his downfall. I think.
Okay.
I think that's fair, and I think he should know that. So if he goes to Indiana, and you have to play Rutgers, good luck, buddy.
Indiana, I'm convinced he's literally only keeping in his top 3 as a troll because of the way that Ron dominated them in college.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I would be stunned if he ended up there because he's trolled them in his official visit pictures. I think he's literally keeping them in the top 3 just to goof around.
That's right. He did troll them in the pictures. He's going to Rutgers, dude. He's going to Rutgers.
That'd be so sick.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. I completely forgot that he trolled Indiana.
Yeah.
I was going off of Mbako, he's a Jersey kid, right?
Yeah. Roselle Catholic.
That was he committed to Rutgers? No,
he was committed to Duke, right? And then he.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But that's why the Dylan Harper, because in my mind the Jersey Duke, Indiana connection with Mbako and with Dylan Harper, I got confused as to which was which.
Did they Taco Bell incident? Was there any follow up to that?
I don't think so, because I think most people kind of felt like he same bro, you know, like that was kind of like you go to Taco Bell at 2 a.m, you want Taco Bell, and the people, like, we've all been there where we've gotten some shady people that are like making your tacos, and you're like losing your mind that they're taking their sweet ass time. But yeah, I don't really think it was that. I don't think it was that big of a deal. And also, he kind of, I think part of the reason it's not that big of a deal is he hasn't been awesome for Indiana so far. So like, it's not. I think the Indiana haters don't really care that much because they're like, whatever, man, play him. We don't care. Like, that's actually, whereas like if he was, you know, as good as like Trace Jackson Davis was for Indiana, maybe people are losing their minds more and they're like, why was he not suspended? But yeah, I don't think it was that big of a deal. I think it was more funny than anything else. But I'm also I don't fully remember. I now you got me wondering, should we revisit that story and see what happened? All right, I think that's the show. Thanks to everyone who listens and watches, and apologize again for getting this out later than usual. We'll do a better job of anticipating some of these hiccups, because we should have seen this coming. We should have known that Cyber Monday would roll around. We wouldn't be able to do a show. What was
your thoughts on the Black Friday Cyber Monday fracas at Barstool? I tried to warn you on the way in, but I think that you were a little blindsided by how much of a tidal wave.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps happening. I think like I'm in a danger zone where like I can't keep playing the new guy card.
Right, it has been.
I have been, but
months.
at the same time, it has not been a full. I've never experienced a Black Friday here, so like, everyone was saying promote merch, and I did, but I also like. It was like a bizarre feeling. It felt like I don't know why this is the analogy that comes to mind, but it felt like the opening game of Squid Game where they're playing the red light, green light type thing, where the light turns off, like it's the stop, the red light, you know, and everyone stops, but then there's that like brief moment of pause where everyone's like, fuck, did I move or did I not move? And we don't really know, and someone's gonna get shot and killed, and you're just hoping it's not you. That was me on. It was like red light, green light. So like when green light was going, I was like, all right, I'm gonna retweet this. I don't really use Twitter that much anyway, so like that was weird because I don't know, and I was just like in my head about, I'm not really good at like, I'm not good at being a salesman. I'm not, and that's not an excuse. It's just like I'm not. Even the merch on Mostly Sports, I'm like I like that we have merch. I love that people were buying it, but I'm not good at like act now, come. You know, I like the whole thing was just like a foreign concept to me. But I did want to promote it. I want to be a team player. So that was my feeling. It was like I woke up on the morning after Thanksgiving to literally 40 text messages from you and Brandon and the Mostly Sports chat and some various other people that work here. And I was like, holy shit, this is insane. Yeah. But I felt like I tweeted enough or retweeted enough. I don't know. But then there was just that moment of and then I saw like Gaz went on like Barstool Radio
to like air people
out. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be on the list or that was the red light, green light moment where I was like, okay, it's red light. Am I going to get shot and killed? I don't know yet.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
There's a couple cycles in the Barstool calendar, and anyone who follows multiple Barstool accounts knows this. Like Nights of Rough and Rowdies, Barstool Invitational, Barstool Arizona Bowl, and then Black Friday is the big one. Like if you're not tweeting, you're going to get, you know, sacrificed in front of everyone.
And the mistake I made was thinking on Thanksgiving I would spend Thanksgiving with my family. And what a fucking idiot I am. I should have anticipated firing off tweets left and right.
Shout out to everyone who did though.
Yeah.
Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Yeah, you guys are rich now.
Yeah. TJ and I we got a little bag.
When are you taking me out to dinner?
TJ,
I mean, know. My God, you guys are rolling in the dough. I saw how much you got.
Yeah. I'll invite you over.
Stacks on stacks, dude.
Come over and I'll make you some turkey wraps, bro.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Shout out to Dave for matching too.
I hosted Thanksgiving, so I invited my whole family up to my house, and I was looking forward to like a quiet like family time type thing. So that was just like a bizarre. It was very weird. And my family, like my parents watch everything, and like they're kind of familiar with the Barstool world, but also, I mean, we talked about it on the show that when I pissed my pants, my mom was thought I was getting a face tattoo live on the air. So they don't like fully, and like trying to explain to them like, hold on a second, I need to go fire off tweets to, I got to retweet Bussin' with the Boys, real quick, on Thanksgiving or like the day after Thanksgiving. It was, I don't know. I'll be better prepared next year. I'll say that much. Next year, I'll know what I'm up against. But yeah, I didn't get killed for it, right? I wasn't mentioned on any.
I haven't heard anything.
Did anybody say anything to you? Like,
no.
Titus let us down. I didn't post. Well, the other thing,
I texted Brandon because I was worried that in the initial rollout on Thursday night that you weren't active enough. I was like, hey, Brandon.
I went to sleep on Thursday. It was Thanksgiving. I was like with my family. I was exhausted, and I just like went to bed at like 10:30.
Huge mistake.
Right.
Yeah, I know. And then I woke up to 40 text messages. I was like, what the fuck?
Just making sure you were live.
I was like, yeah, dude, I'll tweet about it. Like I didn't know it was. Yeah, but no, I get it. I mean, like we did well. We
watching out for our boys.
Yeah, we moved a lot of merch. It's a necessary evil. And I'll be better prepared next year for it. Yeah. All right. That's the show. Thank you, everybody. We will see you on Friday.